I went to a lake with my buddy Joe when we were first, we turned 16. We were all able to go fishing. Jeff couldn't go that day, so me and Joe went. And
Yeah, I couldn't go.
You couldn't because you weren't invited, so you could not go. No, so we all go to this lake. Just Joe and I. You weren't there. Again, just hammering that home. You weren't there. Me and Joe go to this lake, and it is historically a lousy fishing lake. We went there because it was close to home. It had public access. There's no houses on it. I would darn near call it a giant pond. But our little 16-foot or 14-foot John boat could go in there perfect. No motors allowed, no wake, but we had a little trolling motor, so we tool around in. We had fished there a bunch of times and never caught anything, or just one or two bass, or nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to really write home about. So this one time we go out, and we end up navigating around the shores, and we did our same thing that we always did. And in this one spot, I cast it, and as soon as the bobber hit the water, because we were fishing with worms and bobber for gills, bluegills, brim if you're from the south, whatever. So we cast, and as soon as my bobber hits the water, boom, it's underwater, keeper-sized gill. I'm like, sweet. I was like, well, I'll toss another one in there. As soon as the bobber hits, boom, another one. Now I'm like, this is crazy because this is a lake where historically we hadn't done that good. Now this was the reason why we went to that lake was because we were in a pinch for time, and the ice had just literally melted off the lake. So it got me thinking okay, this must be the hot spot on the lake. We ended up getting 20 gills that day, and I've got a picture of it, and I'll show you too. I was all happy, just a stringer full of gills. It's probably blurry because, like I said, this is from a long time ago.
Did you look like you were 8 in the picture?
Well, yeah, because I look 10 now, so it would make sense that I would look 8 then. So we went back 2 or 3 weeks later to the same spot, and they were still biting when we left, so it's not like we cleaned out the place. Went back and casted there, nothing. Tried around, nothing. We went to other usual spots a little bit deeper and stuff, got a couple more. So then I started researching. I'm like, what makes a spot good or bad in fishing? And I came across this old wives' tale that essentially the northwest part of the lake, and normally depending on, some variables, trees, depth of the lake, stuff like that, but will receive the most amount of sunlight during a day because of the way the sun goes up and then goes across the sky.
Okay.
So the northwest corner of the lake will receive the most. Now, looking at the map where we were on that lake, indeed, we were in the northwest corner. I don't know why I said indeed. I sounded all
indeed.
Very professor-like of me. And I was like, okay, is there anything to this then? Now, I went over there, and looking around, I also realized that it was a mud bottom, which means it was like a black bottom, which is why I didn't even think I would get anything there, because historically, when we caught fish there, it would be near the weeds and stuff like that. And it was too early, I think, for them to be on their beds as well. So it's not like they were on beds, and they wouldn't have done it on mud. They like the harder sand and where they can put the rocks and everything like that. And have so it wasn't that. I think the dark mud bottom also would have generated more heat because it would have shallower mud bottom, dark, would generate more heat. So I guess in summary, I think it's interesting that old wives' tale of the northwest corner would be the warmest part of the lake during the ice out. So in Michigan, we have ice fishing. Once the ice is melting away, that section of the lake would heat up the quickest. Now, it might only be a couple degrees, about 100 degrees in the Caribbean seas, and the hot bluegills saying, "Ay, papi," they go over there.
Wow.
And that was not bad, right?
No, that was pretty good.
I've been listening to classic Will Smith, so that was going to work its way in one way or the other. None of us were immune from that.
We're all excited that happened.
You're welcome. So just those couple degrees, though, could move them in there, but I think the mud bottom probably increased the temperature even more than that, and it was shallow. And it was shallow, so it was and it slightly stained. So a little bit of stained water with a mud bottom, shallower, northwest corner. I bet they were there because the water was warmer there, and then as everything evened out, they went on their way. But it would make sense that would be the warmest section of it. And if you've ever swam in a lake, you know that you feel the water column temperature changes. Like if you dive down in a lake, you can go from a certain temperature and it's a drastic colder, as you go down different depths. And the fish are going to have that same thing. And during the warm up after the ice, it would make sense that they'd be like, let's get it hot in here. So hot to warm up all our gills. They're getting so. I'm just kidding. No more song references for the day. But
So fish feel temperature.
yeah.
Makes you wonder if fish feel pain. For more on that, check out our other podcast.
Oh yeah, we did make it. I'm not proud of you for what you just did, but yeah, there is a video on our
I'm
podcast.
promoting other stuff. What do your segues do?
Our segues hurt us, but that's besides the point. Actually, that is true, though. One of our more popular podcast topics that we've covered was, do fish feel pain? And I went in great depth in the science experiments and stuff for that. So check out that video on our YouTube channel as well.